Bedrooms were closed, the bathroom door was shut. Nothing seemed out of place. I reached the light switch and flipped it off. The hallway went dark again. I stood there for a moment, listening. The house was silent. No footsteps, no creaking, no movement of any kind. I waited, expecting the light to turn back on immediately, but it didn't. I went back to the living room, trying to calm myself down. I told myself I was overreacting. I sat down, picked up my phone again, and tried to distract myself, but I couldn't stop glancing toward the hallway. About 10 minutes later, it happened again. The hallway light turned on. This time, my heart dropped straight into my stomach. The light came on just as suddenly as before, without a sound. I felt a chill run through me, and my hands started to shake slightly. Once is strange, twice is something else. I didn't get up right away. I stayed where I was, staring at the light, listening as hard as I could. My mind started running through possibilities. Maybe someone had broken in. Maybe I wasn't actually alone. But the house was still, completely still. I stood up again, slower this time, and walked toward the hallway. Every step felt heavy, like my body didn't want to move forward. When I reached the switch, I hesitated. I looked down the hallway one more time before turning it off. Nothing. I flipped the switch and the light went out. That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The switch was already in the off position. I stared at it, confused and terrified. I flipped it on and off again just to be sure. It worked normally, but that didn't explain how the light had turned on when the switch hadn't moved. I backed away from the hallway and returned to the living room. I locked the front door, even though it already was. Then I checked the back door. I locked that too. Every sound now felt threatening. I sat back down, this time keeping my eyes fixed on the hallway entrance. I didn't look at my phone anymore. I didn't turn the TV back on. I just watched. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. Just when I started to think it was over, the light turned on again. This time, I felt pure fear. My chest tightened and my breathing became shallow. The hallway was brightly lit once more, and I noticed something I hadn't before. One of the bedroom doors was slightly open. I was sure it had been closed earlier. I didn't approach the hallway again. I couldn't. I stayed on the couch, frozen, watching the light and the door. I waited for movement, for a sound, for anything. Nothing came. Eventually, the light turned off by itself. I stayed awake until morning, lights on, sitting in the same spot. When the sun finally came up, I walked through the house. All the doors were closed. Everything looked normal. But ever since that night, I never leave the hallway light off when I'm home alone. Because I know now, it doesn't need a switch to turn on.
I was alone in my bedroom when it happened, and the house was unusually quiet. Not the calm kind of quiet, but the kind that makes you aware of every small sound. It was late, well past midnight, and everyone else in the house was asleep or gone. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, trying to ignore the stillness. My bedroom shared a wall with the guest room. The guest room was empty that night. No one ever used it unless family visited, and it had been locked for weeks. I remember thinking how dark and unused that room felt, even during the day. I was just starting to relax when I heard it. Someone whispered my name. It was quiet, barely louder than a breath, but clear enough that there was no mistaking it. My phone slipped slightly in my hand as I froze. The voice wasn't loud or aggressive. It was close, too close. I sat up in bed and listened. At first, I thought maybe I imagined it. The brain does strange things when you're tired. I waited, staring at the wall I shared with the guest room, half expecting to hear something else. Then, it happened again. My name was whispered a second time, slower this time, stretched out like whoever was saying it didn't want me to miss it. My chest tightened, and I felt a chill run through my arms. The sound wasn't coming from inside my room. It was coming from the other side of the wall. I held my breath, listening as hard as I could. There were no footsteps, no movement, just the faint hum of the house settling around me. The whisper hadn't sounded like anyone I knew. I told myself it had to be noise from outside, maybe someone walking past the house, maybe a voice carried through an open window. But the windows were closed. I had checked them earlier that night. I slowly got out of bed and moved closer to the wall. Each step felt wrong, like I was getting closer to something I shouldn't. I pressed my ear gently against the wall, my heart pounding in my chest. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, I heard breathing. It was faint, slow and steady, definitely not mine. My stomach dropped and I pulled back from the wall immediately. The guest room was supposed to be empty. I backed away and sat back down on my bed, trying to calm myself. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to make noise. I didn't want to alert whoever or whatever was on the other side. Minutes passed in complete silence. Just when I started to think it was over, the whisper came again. This time, it was right against the wall. My name spoken clearly, softly, like someone standing inches away. I felt my eyes fill with tears as fear took over. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, pointing it at the wall like it would help. The light revealed nothing, just the same plain surface I had always known. But it felt different now, thinner somehow. I worked up the courage to speak. My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Who's there?" There was no reply. Instead, I heard a soft tapping on the wall, 3 slow taps, then silence. My heart raced as I stared at the spot where the sound had come from. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in my bed with the light on until morning. When the sun finally came up, I checked the guest room. It was empty. The door was still locked, the windows were closed. There was no sign anyone had been inside. Nothing was out of place. I never heard the whisper again. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I swear I can feel someone standing on the other side of that wall, listening, waiting.